I could write it down, say it loud till my lungs break. Take another breath, spit it out, it's the new wave. If you bowed around on your dad, I wouldn't take it. It's time that I'm around, broken glass, now my tongue split. I'm eating brunch with my people though. The homie Dyke just cooked up a feast and we bout to eat it, bro. Fucked around and has to mix the lobster with the poutine. Daddy is rolling blow dream, them boys got down a routine. It's Naptown culture, cooking 7 courses. Had to pass the torch and now I'm grabbing second portion. So sit back, relax, grab a drink and a smoke. It's Harder Brunch on the way and get prepared for the jokes. Whoa.
Hi, and welcome to the Harder Brunch Podcast. I'm your host, Dak Michaels, and with me as always, my co-host, Thaddeus J. McKee.
Slappy. Pappy. Wah, wah.
On the ones and twos, the wheels of steel, the sauce boss of Indianapolis, and the last woke dragon. Give it up for Zach Roan, everybody.
Hey there. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's the only time in my life that's ever happened.
You got cheers for that one.
You guys just made my month.
And it's the last time that'll ever happen. I forbid any cheering anymore. Very special guest with us. First time in studio, Zach Stewart. You said you go by Stu, though, to your friends?
Everybody calls me Stu.
Nice.
Do you like the food?
Amazing. Best meal I've had in last year, at least.
Oh, thank you so much. And you are a hospitality guy.
Yeah.
You want to tell us about Not So Flyover?
Yeah. So I spent most of my life in the hospitality industry. I got into it really in an odd way. I lied on a resume and got a bartending job.
Okay. Were you underage or something? Or
no? So I was in a band. I was playing music, and the only job that I could really retain, while going out on tour and coming home, I could always go work at a bar. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. And so, dear friend of mine, Ryan Gullett, who was the bar director over at Bluebeard for years, he and I opened up a bar in Greencastle, Indiana. That was my first time, first experience, really, working in the industry. So we were the youngest bar owners in the state of Indiana, and I think we still hold that title.
How old were you?
We had just turned 21.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Just turned 21, and you're like, let's buy a bar.
Yeah, and so Ryan went to bartending school in Chicago, and it was actually the establishment that we ended up opening was a old Cunningham restaurant group spot in Greencastle, right downtown, and first drink that came through, I lied on my resume. I said, yeah, I've got bartending experience. And first drink was a screwdriver. And I'd go over to Ryan and I whisper, what the hell is in a screwdriver? And he's like, grabs my belt loop and said, orange juice, vodka, let's go. And that was it.
Just dropped you off in the deep end.
Yeah.
That actually does kind of sound irresponsible. I'm on your side.
Yeah.
But it's like, what if a 16-year-old got a car dealership?
Yeah.
They're like, hey, how does this thing run? I don't know.
Exactly. And we opened up our spot. It was called Hoods and Capers, downtown Greencastle. Really cool, kind of underground speakeasy. Nice. We opened it up as a bar, and then got the kitchen open 3 months later. And our first chef was a kid that was cooked in town quite a bit named Justin Idlegeorge. And it was pre him going to culinary school. And so we had this kid that was super hungry about cooking.
Yeah.
He figured out our kitchen and menu right before he went to school, and we owned and operated for 3 or 4 years.
That's awesome.
Ended up selling it and moved out to Iowa, started working for a distillery, Cedar Ridge Distillery, one of the greatest working experiences I've ever had. And out there, Iowa, they have no pro sports teams and very few touring musicians come through there to perform. But everybody's passing through there on tour because you can get to Kansas City, Twin Cities, Chicago. Everybody's passing through. Nobody's playing. And so I ran the tasting room out at this distillery, and I said, "Hey, can we start hosting touring bands?"
Yeah.
And just I'll start hitting them up and saying, "I want to give you guys a complimentary hospitality experience, a day off on tour." Typically, a lot of bands were passing through on Sundays and Mondays, day off. Maybe they didn't have a show. And so they had time to kill. And so I was like, well, if I could just give good hospitality to these artists, maybe they'll reconsider this kind of perception that the Midwest is flyover country. And I used to play music. And so that's how I met Ryan. We both met each other when we were really young on tour. And I know what life is like living on the road. And I know what good hospitality, or I like to think I know what good hospitality is. And especially when you're an artist on the road, it doesn't matter how many records you sell, you're still going to get shitty hospitality probably 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to give back to touring musicians. I went through a lot of like mental health issues and kind of went through all of it after I stopped playing music because I thought that was going to be my life. And that was my mission. And so 10 years later, I ended up getting reconnected with the music industry in a much different light, kind of using my hospitality experience at that point to try to give people good experiences. And I would just cold email artists, agents, labels, and I'd send hundreds of emails and I'd get no response until I started getting responses. And the first responses would always be like, hey, what's the catch to this? Because you're just like blowing up my email with this, solicited bullshit. And you're saying you're going to take care of one of my artists for free. What do we have to do?
Right.
Show up.
Yeah. And that was it. And, kind of the first artist to say yes was Modest Mouse. And that was back in 2017. And I felt like going into it's like, oh, I can do this. And they called me at like midnight on a Sunday. They're like, yeah, we're coming tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay, let's ride. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's been the most like rewarding experience for me, just to see how much it matters to artists.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's super cool.
How did that first one go?
Yeah, I was curious. Like, what was your like go-to original kind of idea for it, and then how has it changed to like where you are now?
Yeah,
what you're offering?
So the first 2 or 3 years, I tried to get bands to come through the distillery, just because I was there.
Yeah,
beautiful property, winery. There's a beautiful vineyard out there, and you can make a day out of it. I mean, or an afternoon out of it. And so you walk the property, Modest Mouse came out. We ripped open a bunch of different barrels that we had our master distiller pull from. When VIPs come out, it's like, let's pull the best barrels in the rick house and let's let these guys rip them open and see what they taste like. And, we did that for hours, and then the hotel shuttle didn't come back and pick them up. And so then it just turned into a long night of all of us just hanging out. And, that band took care of me in ways that, had that night not gone so well, I don't know what I'd be doing, if I'd still be doing it now.
Yeah.
Because they helped me out a lot and got me in touch with a lot of people that, helped me just take care of even more artists. And so forever indebted to those guys and the distillery for facilitating it and, taking that expense and saying, yeah, let's give back to these musicians and let's hope that they remember Iowa or Indianapolis in a different light and get them off the bus, get them out of the hotel room, and expose them to all the greatness that the Midwest has to offer.
Very modest of them.
Yeah, right? Right?
Slam that boo button, please.
That's not applause?
I think the same thing with traveling comedians. And a big thing for us, I think, a big thing for me and the kind of like the idea behind starting this podcast was to shine a light on artists, especially in the culinary field, but like artists, comedians, of all different kinds that like aren't always being written about. And so, and like to make Indianapolis like a cool place. Like a lot of comedians, I listen to a lot of like comedy podcasts. A lot of comedians don't like Indianapolis. I'm not sure what it's lacking that they want, but trying to change those perceptions and make Indianapolis, I think us hosting the Super Bowl was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need another event like that or another big thing to kind of remind people that Indianapolis is probably one of the most walkable cities in the US. We have so much cool stuff. I've seen, especially in the last 15 years, how much our food scene, our music scene, how much the cool stuff is there to be offered. So like when you contacted me about this, I was like, this is so in line with what I'm about. Like I love the idea. I used to work at Hotel Tango, and I remember this what triggered me when you triggered me, but reminded me because when we worked there, like Slipknot called one time, and they were like apparently huge into whiskey, and they were going to come by and do a tasting. Never ended up it ended up working out or whatever. But I just remembered like how crazy would that be if Slipknot came in to do a whiskey tasting? Like also anybody could walk in and say they were Slipknot, and I wouldn't.
Right. Yeah. That's funny you say that because Slipknot ended up coming out to Cedar Ridge, and they launched Slipknot whiskey at Cedar Ridge, the distillery I was at. And so they're the biggest band to ever come out of Iowa. And, one of the guys came in with his wife for just a tour. Nobody never disclosed who he was. Obviously, he wasn't in a mask.
Yeah.
And so nobody knew who the hell he was.
It'd be crazy if he just wore that in his regular life.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
It makes sense that they came from Iowa because, like, I'll be angry too.
Right.
If I grew up in Iowa.
Right.
That's the real flyover state.
It is.
Are you okay if we talk crap about Iowa?
No, you
I
can.
know you started there.
Yeah, it's all good. My mom and my dad live there, so that's really my ties to it. But
Those are the only people I like from Iowa.
Oh wow!
Hey.
He's looking at the Slipknot whiskey line right here. Slipknot No. 9 whiskey.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they handed off their business card after that tour and said, we could go make whiskey with Jack Daniels tomorrow. And it could be all over the world, but we want to help other Iowans out. And so, the ball moved very quickly, and they started blending stuff up. I think they went through over 300 different blends before they found what they actually wanted. And
300.
yeah, and this wasn't, a lot of people think these celebrity spirit releases are just a bunch of bullshit, and somebody's putting their name on it. And these guys were every bit involved.
Yeah,
and so
they're connoisseurs.
Yeah, and then when they
Clownosaurs.
right. When they launched
that blue button? That
You
sucked.
smiled, Zach. I don't know. You
Yeah,
smiled.
really, that's pretty good. That wasn't like yours thing.
That straight up sucked. Come on, guys. Let's have some integrity. Anyways, keep going.
No, but they launched it, and it was very successful. And we had they played their first hometown show in Iowa in like a decade, and it was at the Iowa State Fair. And the day before, they launched the whiskey out on the property, and they had fans from all over the world fly in. And just even the press release alone, when it came out, I think it came out in Forbes and Rolling Stone, and the phones at the distillery just rang for days. Everybody wanted it, and it was almost as if you went viral overnight.
Wow.
And it started shining a light on this little craft distillery that to me they make the best juice in the most romantic way in North America. And so it was really cool that they partnered with them, and it's a long-term relationship, and they're going to be doing it for years, which is really cool.
So this is the distillery you used to work at?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And is this the whiskey you brought us today?
Yeah, there is some up there.
Some Slipknot whiskey.
Yeah. It's good. It's 60% rye, 40% bourbon. One of the blends is, but yeah, it's a great sipper.
Now, did you get to meet everyone without the gimmicks on?
No, so I moved right before the guys this was actually at the distillery, but and that's Murphy. He's the master distiller, really great guy.
Oh, nice.
But those two work together. Clown and Murphy were kind of the brainchild of it. But
it does make sense that a clown would make whiskey like that. Like, where have we been?
Right. All the emotions of a clown if you drink a bottle.
Yeah, I'm always seeing clowns drink.
Right.
I used to work at the Shriner Circus as a poop boy. I would clean up the elephant's poop.
Hey.
And then clowns would just be drinking so much.
Hey.
Yeah.
It was the classic clown versus poop boy rivalry that people always talk about.
Yeah, people do talk about it, and I usually shy away from it. But
I'm sorry.
Do the poop boys drink much?
The poop boys, we sometimes they'd slip us something. I don't know if it was whiskey.
So what brought you back to Indiana?
Yeah. So I was actually going to work at Can. So when I moved out to Iowa, I was going through a bunch of mental health stuff, trying to figure out my depression, anxiety. For the first time in my life, I was like 27 or 28, and ended up really wanting to kind of, get back with Ryan, who was my business partner at the bar. And, I kind of lost myself those last few years of just owning and operating. was drinking way too much and found myself in a dark place. And so I kind of left Ryan in the dust, really, with this bar in Greencastle. And so it was like, I was determined to like get my health in order and come back and join forces with this guy that, gave me his blessing. Was like, dude, just go get better. Like, that's all I care about. I'll hold this down. Just go get better. And so I always wanted to get back and work with him. And so that was like my wife and I moved here 2 weeks before the pandemic started. And so I was laid off and kind of had to figure it out. I was applying for like bag boy jobs and I couldn't even get calls back, those first 6 months. And so it helped me kind of really focus on, well, how can I take this flyover thing here? Obviously, like live shows were ending too. So it was like, what the hell? Yeah. What am I going to do here?
Yeah. Zoom hospitality.
Yeah. Right. And it was interesting. I just kind of started thinking about it way more and giving it way more attention. Gave me a lot of time to just email all day.
So you were like convinced like the world's going to start turning again. Like if I just put in the work now, it's going to pay off. That's really interesting to me because like I was definitely like the world is ending kind of like I was like, I don't know, let's do some podcasts as the world burns. Like
I definitely felt that too. But live music to me is the most wonderful thing. Just music in general is the most wonderful thing. Imagine I always take like 10 seconds out of my day to ask myself, imagine what the world or life would be like if music just didn't exist.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't imagine. Like I wouldn't even have memories of anything really.
And it was a slow open. I think it was a much slower open for music than it was like comedy. We could figure out how to be 6 feet apart and get we were doing comedy shows by the summertime, like outdoors and, socially distanced. But I feel like music took a while before you could have like gatherings of people, even outside.
Yeah. And then a lot of bands started doing live broadcast shows and selling tickets online. And I didn't know how to feel about that in the beginning. Cause it was like, man, I love the energy of being in a venue and actually feeling it.
Yeah. Live show.
But then a year into the pandemic, I found myself, buying tickets to some online shows and I was feeling it there too, just cause I was so deprived of, being in a live music scene. And so,
what bands were doing online shows?
Gosh, there were tons. I think I watched several.
Aren't those just music videos at a certain point?
Yeah,
well, it's live streaming though, right?
Some of them were doing them actually live. Others were doing them pre-recorded and then, getting it mixed and mastered and then broadcasting it. But, there were some great ones for sure.
That's, man, that's so interesting when you were talking about getting burnout, especially owning a business. So like I opened up a food truck right out of culinary school and I thought I was going to be a restaurateur. I thought I've been in the service industry my whole life and that's where everything was kind of headed. And the burnout was so fast and furious for me of just like, I can't even imagine doing this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I love food. And it took me a while to kind of realize that like, obviously I still love hospitality, but I didn't like restaurant ownership and separating those two out. And since the pandemic, I've seen so many creative people do things outside of the traditional, like working in a restaurant, whether they're chefs or business owners or just creatives or whatever. And like watching all the interesting stuff that people are doing, like taking those skill sets and like, pairing them with like, your love of music and hospitality. And then like, okay, well, what does that look like? Yeah.
It's kind of, I hated towards the end of it, like year 14 of, being in the front of house. It's like, those days are like 13, 14, 15, 15-hour days. They just keep ticking and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Not having much to show for it. Yeah. And then, all of your personal relationships suffer. I was a passing ship with my wonderful wife for years, just opposite schedules. And while she and I could sustain that, it still wasn't fun. Yeah. And it's just like, man, I want to do something. It's got a bigger purpose here. Not that I think there's a great purpose and a large purpose working in the service industry. Yeah. I felt that too. And that's why I'm still in hospitality. But there's just a lot of bullshit you got to deal with, just as like anything else. But mental health crisis is just as it is in the music industry and everything else, the hospitality industry too. And so it was it wasn't an environment that was conducive for me, like mid 30s anymore, to just keep grinding at it. Yeah.
This may sound a little, I don't know, this may sound a little off, but like I think there is also something about providing hospitality for people that are really appreciative for it. So like finding your customers or finding your people that are like dialed into exactly what you're doing, they're on board with it. Not just like it's kind of like we don't like to do comedy, like ambush comedy, like pop up at a bar and like, hey, there's a show going. They're always terrible. But like if you get a show where people are coming to see a comedy show, like it's always going to be better. I feel like the same way with hospitality and food, where it's just like if you're just cooking for the masses sometimes too, it's just like, well, man, there's some real worst human beings in this group. Like people that make it not fun.
Can you not say we when you say ambush comedy? Because that's the brand that I'm doing now. I just pop out of bushes and tell people jokes or show them something that I think is funny. And it's working.
Isn't that what we're all doing?
Okay. It's an ambush.
That's 2 booze.
That's not 2 booze. It's 1. But like, isn't like TikTok or like viral videos, or that's kind of like ambushing people as well?
No, but you're on TikTok to watch stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like you're there to watch videos one after another.
Yeah. If I mailed you a TikTok,
you're walking the streets to see something. Zach.
Right. Like I feel like it's like when you're like with your friend and they want you to watch their TikTok stuff that they watch.
That's ambush.
That's ambushing somebody with it.
Okay. Well, that's a new idea that I have. Thank you. I'll add that to the list.
Well, I would like to ambush you guys with the Smoking Goose Presents Brunch Breakdown.
Hey.
Is that the sound effect that we're going? Yep. Fonzie. We're gonna get a professional's drop for that, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Or maybe just Fonzie on the board saying a clip of the Fonz.
That was.
Oh, okay. All right. So this week we wanted to showcase Indiana as not being flyover. So we wanted to do some dishes and try to do some interesting takes on some classic Indiana dishes, and foods that are associated with Indiana. Number one, obviously, both Indiana and Iowa. Corn, we got lots of it, and we love eating it. So I did an elote salad with Indiana sweet corn. And I don't know. I don't really know much to say about it.
People raved about it. People liked it. People were clapping at the very beginning. I'm like, oh wait, we got a lot of dishes to go. People were scoffing it down.
You wanted to bring down the claps.
Yeah, I was like, hey guys,
too much.
Calm down.
This is barely a course.
Yeah.
Do you ever cool the guests down if they're too excited? Like, hey guys, let's bring it down a notch.
I point out the inconsistency. I like to do that.
A little too much cilantro in this dish.
I'm like, corn's not really even good for your body. Let's just think about it.
And then Zach, you had
I did a pork tenderloin, but I made it into a eggs Benedict with, and then for my fancy part, I made a foam with the hollandaise, and then there was also smoking goose ham on that.
Oh yeah.
Is hollandaise foam a normal thing, like, or is that like kind of something you created?
That's something I made up.
Okay.
I wanted to make a foam on it somewhere, and so I turned the hollandaise into a foam.
Indiana foam.
There we go.
I feel like there's certain foods that are just like locked in since childhood that I'm always gonna like. I'll always tear up like a Dairy Queen M&M Blizzard. Like no matter what, like it literally makes me feel better. Like eating one, like that could pull me out of depression. Or jumpstart one. But I feel like the tenderloins are the same way. There's like something about eating a tenderloin where I'm just like, it just transports me back to childhood. And I thought it was a really good take. And all the components were really good on it.
Thank you.
Well, what was that? Was it just English muff?
Yeah, it was just English muff.
Okay.
They were buttermilk English muffs.
It was good.
Wait a second.
And then we did I guess you could make an argument that a beef Manhattan is more representative of a Manhattan than Indianapolis.
Man, I feel like you really lost the plot after
Yeah.
I mean, we took our items and we went back, and I was waiting to see what you did, and you kind of did oops, no Indiana.
Yeah.
Except for the corn.
I sent my dad a picture. He's like, "What are you having today?" I was like, "Oh, it's all Indiana based." And I sent him a picture of a beef Manhattan. He's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're kind
It's
of
named for another city.
We're not doing too well."
Now look, if you Google Indiana foods, look, we it's easy to start off. It's like pork tenderloin, boom. Sugar cream pie, boom. And then it's like corn, and then it's like, I don't know, beef Manhattan, chicken and noodles, I don't know.
Is that what Chat GTP said? Maybe that was a glitch.
Yeah. It's like
I feel like you would have gotten closer with chicken and noodles than something that had another city's name on it.
it was beef Indianapolis.
A beefy Irvington.
Yeah.
Beef Irvington.
And spoiler, I'll say no apples. Johnny Appleseed is very Indiana, right?
I don't know.
Third one for the day.
Well, and you know what that means. 3 boos and you gotta leave.
We're going to talk about this later off air, but y'all just messed up. I don't get free food.
So, yeah. And then what was your next? Oh, and then we had the, no, I think fried chicken is pretty much any state except for the coasts. I feel like every state except
That's
for
a
like
really bold statement.
except for Alaska, Hawaii, and any coastal cities, you can claim fried chicken. I feel like that's very anywhere in the South, anywhere in the Midwest, fried chicken is in play.
Puerto Rico.
And sometimes Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands. And so we did it was a waffled fried chicken, or I guess technically beignet fried chicken.
Yeah.
And then it had a blackberry reduction with it. So I thought it could be divisive if you didn't like sweet meats.
It was amazing.
Probably not into it, but
Now you douse that in powdered sugar too.
Oh, yeah.
Like a powdered sugar donut.
yeah.
I love that.
I mean,
Yeah.
fried food in sugar. What is more Indiana than that?
No, I'm with you. I'm not. This is me being serious.
I might pitch that for the state fair this year. That might be like, look, this is what we're doing. All right, we're not frying any chocolates.
Donut fried chicken.
Donut fried chicken.
It was really good. Like, I mean, like, it was the most creative dish I've seen in a long time. I also thought about my health a lot when I was eating it. I was like, am I going to be okay? Because it was sweet chicken. Like, even when you ate the chicken, it was very sweet.
That's how you know it's like Indiana food. If you're thinking about how many years of your life it's taking off, then you know it's good Indiana
It felt
cuisine.
like that Time movie with Justin Timberlake. I just saw the countdown go really quick.
10 hours. Oh,
I
man.
just watched something.
Some good chicken. And then Zach, you had the dessert.
I did sugar cream pie. I did a deconstructed version. So I made a custard and sprinkled cinnamon on that. Had some ice cream in there, and then I cooked some wheat berries and some sugar water instead of the crust.
Where do you get the wheat berries from?
So sometimes you can find them at a Meijer or something. Like Bob's Red Mill usually has a version of them, but I got those at the Good Earth in I think Broad Ripple.
Yeah,
they've got all sorts of crazy hippie shit.
I liked it with the ice cream. It was almost like a boba tea kind of thing going on. So yeah, that was our Indiana menu.
Hoosier, baby.
Hoosier menu. And I also think we were kind of joking around, but I also think the thing about Indiana cuisine is we're still adding to Indiana cuisine.
Yeah.
Like, we are still blazing the trail of what Indiana cuisine looks like, and I've seen the scene change so much in the past 10 years that it's maybe that list will be more than 3 things that the state is known for food wise.
And I think it's important to point out it's the Germans that kind of shaped Indiana cuisine.
I mean, that's the tenderloin right there.
That's the tenderloin right there. When they were traveling, I heard they would go through the north and then they would just drop off a whole bunch of their food, and then we would pick up their recipes. Isn't that kind of...
Where'd you hear that from?
You.
What's the biggest tenderloin you've ever had?
So it's funny we're talking about tenderloins because Iowa claims to have the biggest tenderloin.
Uh-oh.
Oh, gosh.
Here we go, Thad.
And I don't. That tenderloin right there is, that's about on par for an Iowa tenderloin. They give it to you on a plate that is a fraction of the size of the tenderloin.
It's offensive. I would say offensively big.
I've worked at some places in Indiana that do that.
Yeah,
that large or whatever.
It's like
but
a
not
pillow cushion of tenderloin.
Like it's for the whole family, right? Like one person's not eating that. That's one person?
I mean, depends on the person.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't think tenderloin. You know what? Go ahead, Iowa. Have the biggest tenderloin. You have nothing to do there.
That's right.
This is from what I heard. But like, that's really they don't see it right now. That's bigger than 2 faces.
Yeah. How many ounces do you think that's hammered out to? Or what? How many ounces do you think that
start off with?
Yeah.
I have no idea. And hopefully it's paper thin. Like that's the only hope, right? That it's just so.
I don't understand where you get on the loin to get it that big. Even hammering it out. You know?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, those are probably loins put together.
Stitched together like a Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster.
A Frankenloin.
Yeah, Frankenloin.
Hope you guys like thread. Yeah, that's a big tenderloin. The biggest problem with tenderloin is the juicy, like the thickness. Yeah. Sometimes you can't bite, you have to pull. But like with your loins, like they're very soft. You have very soft loins.
Thank you. No, I was trying to pound him out in his lump. What? You know what? I'm done.
No, keep going.
You were pounding out the loins.
Keep going.
Go ahead.
I was trying to pound him out as thin as I could.
Of course you were.
I feel like I did a good job.
Of course you were.
Thank you.
Really good.
That's what she said.
Let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Come along, friend. We've got a long journey through the Middle West to return to the ring.
A ring? What ring?
The Dark Ring.
It's not a ring, it's a circle. Black Circle. And there we will complete our quest at Middle Ground Comedy Festival.
It's dangerous to go alone. I shall bring my wit.
And you'll have my antics.
It will be precious.
Join the epic journey to Middle Ground Comedy Festival, a comedy fest in the middle of the Midwest, April 27th through 30th at Black Circle Music Bar in Indianapolis, with headliners Dwight Simmons, Mandy McKelvey, Stuart Huff, Brandy Posey, and Sam Talent, and musical guests Sirius Black and Lisa Frank and the Trapper Keepers. Get tickets at eventbrite.com before they're gone like second breakfast.
It will be precious.
This week on the After Brunch Podcast.
Have you ever had like someone from your high school or someone that you haven't like lost contact with, like reach out and then realize that they're wrapped up in a pyramid scheme?
Like pure romance or
it's either that one or insurance. Insurance. One of my best friends growing up, he was like, "Hey man, I haven't talked to you in a while. Hit me up. Let's chat." And like chatted for a while. I was like, "Man, people are really dying, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, bro. What?" He's like, "Do you have life insurance?" I was like, "Man, why are you calling me right now?"
Do you ever just stare at your loved ones and wonder how much longer you have with them?
Join us at patreon.com/Harder Brunch.
Welcome back to the program. We're talking with Zach Stewart, aka Stu. Man, there seems there's so many like similarities. I feel like between like our paths. I just find it very interesting, and I'm really excited about what you're doing. Can you go a little bit more into detail about like that was a great first story, was like, well, what's something you've done like recently? Like, what does that hospitality look like?
Yeah. So, over the last, I would say ever since the pandemic, like we started doing live shows again, it's kind of difficult. I learned over the last 5 to 7 years, it's pretty difficult if you're not going directly to the artist or their management. It's really difficult to get stuff dropped off to artists in their green rooms. Cause you got to deal with the venue. And so I really tried to focus on going straight to the artist. Cause if the artist says, yes, I'm in, I'm not going to have any problems. And so I started putting together care packages of local food, drink, retail items. And I would hit up local businesses and say, hey, do you buy into what I'm preaching and trying to expose global touring artists to all the greatness of the Midwest? That do you see value in having your product or your stuff in front of touring artists and their crew. And if you don't, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
Like if you want to play the social media influencer game and send stuff to influencers and pay to play and advertise your products that way, totally cool. But if you want to have yourself exclusively served to this artist that's coming through, they'd be very appreciative of anything you'd be willing to put in their green room tonight. And so it kind of started there. And then it kind of turned into, hey, can I build off-site experiences to where I'm taking care of getting the artist to the restaurant, from the restaurant, and or doing some sort of entertainment event or whatever. And so it's coordinating a lot of logistics. And a lot of it is how quickly can you do it on a moment's notice. And so you don't get a lot of lead time.
You got to say a lot of yes.
Yeah. And it definitely started initially as doing procurements. I was fixing for touring bands too. And, it's, hey, I need to get some of these things that are not on my basic creature comfort list.
Sure.
It's like, okay, I got you. And you're building relationships that way the whole time of like, you're helping out the tour manager because now he doesn't have to run off site, spend 3 hours trying to find whatever they're looking for.
Yeah.
And so there's a million different ways you can help out a touring band. And a lot of it is, hey, I'll save you time. Your tour manager is probably going to have a day off because I'm going to do so well at what I do, that they're going to be overwhelmed with how much shit I bring into their green room.
Who's like a go-to, or who are some of your number one go-tos?
Smoking Goose has helped me out a lot.
Hey, shout out.
Hey, 18th Street has donated a lot of beer. So has Chili Water. Those three, since I've moved here, have been huge.
Nice.
Turchetti's helped me out a little bit. Hotel Tango helped me out a little bit. Cedar Ridge has always been my main go-to. They've always been incredibly generous in terms of getting their juice into artist green rooms. And when you get a nice bottle of, Midwestern bourbon in your green room versus a 6-pack of PBR, that means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the most special thing that inspires me the most is artists that you wouldn't think would bat an eye at what you're doing. I've seen guys that I would never imagine in the world, like in tears, so appreciative.
Wow.
And it's like, I always kind of keep that in the forefront of my mind because it's just like, if this person can have that kind of impact over what I'm doing, like maybe I'm onto something here.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if I am,
I think you are. I love how much you're investing in yourself and investing in something that you believe in. Because a lot of stuff that you're doing, I'm sure, doesn't pay off immediately.
Yeah, nothing pays.
But you're building something up. And I also know, I don't know a lot about the music world, but I do know that word of mouth goes a long way.
Yeah.
And if you have a bad experience with somebody, that's going to go a long way. If you have a great experience with someone, that's going to go a long way. When I had the food truck, we randomly got a gig up at Deer Creek for Luke Bryant's whole road crew.
Sweet.
And I had no idea who that was. I was just like, oh, it's a band performing at Deer Creek. And then we went up there and I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was the headlining act.
How was it?
It was awesome. Really, I didn't get to meet him personally, but we fed the whole crew. They were very appreciative. Yeah. I got to use the restroom that was right off the front of the stage and look out from behind the stage during the show. And I just, growing up and going to concerts my whole life, it was amazing just to look out and see what the bands see. And then I'm using the closest toilet to the stage, and as the whole time I'm using it, I'm just thinking oh God, how many people super famous rock stars have pissed in this toilet? That I'd be in it right now.
Yeah.
That's what I think about every
toilet,
gas stations,
truck stops.
But yeah, it was crazy because then we got a good review from them, and then it was later that summer, some of Kanye's people reached out to us, before he was quite as controversial, and we ended up getting real close to doing something with them, but it didn't end up working out. But
it's right, the word travels fast.
It travels fast.
It is I've had a few bands that have just been oh man, they want to like so badly reciprocate the hospitality.
Yeah.
And I've had to like really try to draw a line. I probably drew it too hard over the last few years. My wife always tries to tell me like, these guys, like these people like you, like, they, you know, and it's because I'm not in it to like be friends with bands, you know, I'm in it to give a service and to really kind of like operate with the mystique of Prince. Like, you don't know when I show up, you don't know when I leave, but you knew I was there. And so it's like, I'm going into the green room, dropping, setting it up, usually when the artist is away, getting the hell out of there. No, I don't need free tickets. No, I don't need passes. I don't need anything from you.
No hugs.
Nothing.
Have you ever heard of Professor Pizza?
No.
You know who that is? There's this guy in Chicago, and he just takes he has a little portable pizza oven, and he just like works his way. I think he communicates with comedian. He does a similar thing, but like with comedians. Yeah. But I think he communicates with them before they come into town, and then he's like, hey, like, I would like to bring you this free pizza to your green room and cook it for you. Like in the green room, would you be into that? And like, what kind of pizza would you like? And then people are like, yeah, I guess, I don't know. And like, and then he shows up and makes this amazing pizza, and then they put it all over their social media. And I was just like, oh, what a brilliant like thing to do, you know? Like what a interesting lane to take.
That's funny because, you know, I've had some nights, you know, it turns into like, hey, unsuspectingly, like, can you help us find a place to crash? You know, if it's a band that's not touring in a Prevost, it's like, okay, well, I asked my wife, like, you care if these guys, you know, and then it turns into me like making a whole meal at midnight, making pizzas, or throwing something on the Traeger or whatever. And, then I make my wife in the morning after the band stay, I make her stand on the front porch and I take a photo with her and the band. So like, hopefully like at her, you know, 50 years from now, I can just have this whole book of photos of all these bands that I worked with my wife inserted in there. And so it looks like she's a member of the band, and she absolutely hates it. When I was like, babe, all right, photo time, get up there. And, but it's super endearing to me. But yeah.
What's a common problem that you run into that you're like, man, this is a common theme and this is what I'm looking out for every time I'm setting up?
Ooh, that's a great question. Probably I always have to like set myself up communication wise. Last thing I want to do is show up to the venue and the first person at the door be like, yo, I don't care what you're bringing in here. Like, no, I don't care who you know. Yeah. And I've run into that like right when I moved here and shows started kind of getting back. I ran into that a few times, and it's, you don't want to bother the tour manager while, you know, it's 4:00. They just got done doing sound check. Yeah. They're busy.
Can someone come let me in?
Yeah. And so it's like you set a time and it's like, okay, I'm not going to be late. This is when I'm coming. 9 times out of 10, that time changes and you got to pivot. And so it's just like making sure you're punctual in that respect, and like your communication's on point, because there's a lot, they're so busy during the day. Sure. And whoever's doing the coordination, that you just got to have that on point, or you could be waiting outside of a gate and being, you know, told by security that you need to get out of here.
If I was security, I would never say no to you.
Yeah.
Those glasses, that hat, you look like you're a part of the band.
And maybe that's part of the bit, you know, is like, just keep walking.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times it's like, I mean, I do it at venues that I'm not even doing anything for the artist. And it's like all of a sudden I find this entitlement where it's like, I'm just going to keep walking. I did it at a Pacers game like 4 years ago with my buddy, and it was, you know, we didn't have floor seats or anything like that, but at the end of the game, I was like the last person to go to the bathroom, and I'm a huge Pacers fan, huge. And so I was stoked to come back and see him play against the Lakers, and Lance Stevenson was on the Lakers that game. And I'm like the last person to go to the bathroom. There's this little usher out there. And I said, ma'am, I drove 6 hours to come to this game tonight. Is there any way my buddy and I can get a picture on the floor? And she's like, where are you from, honey? And I said, I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. She's like, honey, my whole family's from Ames, Iowa. Let's go. And so she lets us out on the floor, and there's like this season ticket holder event, and people are like shooting baskets on the floor, and people are taking photos of Boomer and stuff, and they got this prize wheel. And so we're just acting like we're them. And I was like, well, fuck this. We're going to go walk through the tunnel. And So we start walking, and I start going through curtains. Had a couple security people check us out, and opened up a curtain, and then boom, I run right into Kyle Kuzma, and it's like, okay, I'm definitely not supposed to be back here. And then immediately got ushered away. But I would say, just keep walking, and it usually bodes well for you.
That is a life hack. Like there's a certain pace.
There's two different kinds of people, and you two are walk on through people. I only go where I am invited, like a vampire almost.
But what you don't get, there's a certain pace. You can't go too fast.
No,
if you run, like you look suspicious. If you're going too slow, like, hey, this person doesn't know where you're going.
Yeah.
There's a speed limit. There's a pace, and when you follow that pace, what happens, Dyke? You get in.
Well, I mean,
I don't know. I think if Dyke walks alone, he's gonna get called on it.
Yeah, I look like
he has the energy of I shouldn't be here.
I shouldn't be
even
here.
if he should be.
Even
there.
in my
That's
own house.
the problem.
I shouldn't be here right
Like,
now.
I kicked him out of his house the other day.
He was walking too slow.
Yeah, he was walking too slow. I said, "Get out of here! You're not supposed to be here."
Yeah. I mean, but how many times have I got you into a place where I'm like, hey, just follow me?
I can follow in someone's draft that's doing it, absolutely, but I need someone to go in before me. It's like when ducks fly in formation, like the flying V.
I can do that in like I can do that in like food festivals, like places that, because I used to like work them and deliver stuff to them that it was the same thing. I realized nobody ever checks if you're just like, hey, I'm here to work my shift. Nobody's like, oh, well, show me your ID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like, I feel like if I was to do that to a green room, I would like look very guilty and
just no eye contact. Just that's all it is. No eye contact, and the it's just the moment you lock eyes with whoever's by the door, you're done.
Also, another freebie: papers. If you have papers in your hand that looks like there's important stuff, and you're looking and up and down and going real quick.
Yeah. I don't leave home without a Bluetooth headset.
Yeah.
It's not plugged in anything, but they're like, this guy's official. He must be I don't know.
What about a clipboard?
Yeah.
Clipboard's even better. Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
Clipboard, bulletproof vest, sometimes
walkie-talkie,
bow and arrow. Yeah.
Are you storming the Capitol?
Well, that's how I got in with the Capitol. You saw me January 6th. I was there. I wasn't there to do anything bad.
No.
But I was like, hey, I just want to see if I can get
you just
in.
want to be part of history.
Yeah. That's all it is. Everybody just wants to be a part of history.
Yeah.
Have you? I feel like you're kind of like trailblazing this new lane. Have you synced up with anybody that's doing anything similar? Have you inspired anybody or teamed up with anyone that's doing something similar in other cities?
Yeah. That's a great question. So over the years, like I've looked into it, and there's definitely some companies that the aspect of getting companies and businesses products in front of influencers, and not necessarily artists or comedians or touring town or anything like that, but there are third-party companies where you can pay them to disperse your products with the promise that there's going to be X impressions on your social media, all that bullshit. But in terms of like exactly what I do, I don't think so. And like, I probably should have prefaced it, like, I've never made $1 off of this. I've never been paid, and I've kept it that way. It's not to say I haven't had people offer me money, or try to tip me or whatever, but I know that you got to put the work in, and like, it's got to be sincere.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to look, you're not going to get people to call you back. And I've never worked with anybody that's not called me back when they were through the next time. And so I always kind of look at it like I'm building up.
Yes.
And, I can make money by doing festival work and running artist relations for festivals. And so like, I can make a lump sum and kind of fund all this other stuff that I'm doing. And I did all the artist hospitality for the All In Music Festival that was at the State Fairgrounds back in August.
Oh, nice.
And that helped me do a lot of stuff for the rest of the year. And so, you can kind of find that is like a totally different beast where you're kind of hired by the festival or you're hired as a third party. And if you're hired by the festival, it's a little bit different, but you're getting a nice chunk of money and help support all the other stuff you want to do.
Are you doing anything with Middle Ground this year?
No, but I'd love to get involved with as much stuff in indie as I can. And, any businesses that see value in, taking care of artists and like buying into this whole, let's change these perceptions. Like, let's do it together. because I want to see my favorite artists come back through more frequently. I don't want to have to drive out of state to go see him. And I want people to I want asses to be in seats, Yeah. Perfect examples like the Indiana Pacers. You go to a Pacer game, everybody's ass is in a seat. It doesn't matter how close the game is. They could be it takes a team like that in a city like this. While it is as beautiful as it could possibly be, when it comes to entertainment, there is a lack of enthusiasm inside the building.
Yeah.
And, I want to get more asses in seats just in general. And the music venues deserve to have far more sold out shows. And we're building something here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to be a part of that.
What for you you don't have to say like the band or the artist, but what personally for you has been like the most rewarding or fulfilling or exciting experience that you've had providing hospitality?
I think it's like the most rewarding thing for me is when somebody tries to reciprocate the hospitality that I've given them. And it's to the point where they're so insistent that if I turn it down, now I'm risking, I don't know what I'm risking at that point.
Yeah.
And it's afforded like some really cool life photo moments of like that view you were talking about of watching a show from the side of the stage and looking out that way. And to like be able to do that with my wife every now and then, and do it around some of our friends. It's that to me is the most rewarding thing, personally speaking, but like I have a purpose in this whole thing, and that's, I'm honest with the fact that I want to change those perceptions. And I know what it's like to tour in a band in the Midwest, how hard it is to get butts in seats. And I want to see that change.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm about.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What did you think of the Harder Brunch's hospitality? And you can say bad today.
I think I knew. So I've watched many an episode. I was a fan before we spoke, and I think what you guys are doing. I think what you guys are doing is in the same energy field as what I'm trying to do,
absolutely.
and I feel that.
Good.
And
Because I tried to reciprocate. I want it to be reciprocated. Like, I'm thinking about how I could get money from you. I'm thinking, like, what type of deal can I do with this guy? Because he owes me. The music selection we did was great. The food was good.
Yeah, you did.
And it's. I wanted you to know your life is in danger if you don't. Right?
all right.
We'll be showing up for those pizzas tonight. Come on down, boys. We always thought it would be funny at the end just to like be like, oh, how was everything? And then we'd be like, oh man, it's great. Just to slide a bill over to them. You can just get to this whenever you're ready.
No, that hospitality was amazing though, and I felt the love in that meal, and that was a palpable thing. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
It was the foam.
It was a phone.
Foam set it over the edge. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, sometimes I have a fear of missing out on foam.
No.
Oh, you mean no FOMO? Yeah. I gotta laugh, baby. I get it. Anyone's gonna get one. Oh. Sorry, I got excited.
He's back.
I'm back.
He's back, baby. Would you ever think about bringing a band over to a podcast to eat brunch?
I was gonna ask that earlier. I would love to. Do they have to be from Indiana?
No. I think that would be fun. I mean, with I guess a little bit of notice would be, but like, yeah. I mean, how much is in a band? Like 5 to 7 people. Usually?
Depends if they have the crew with them. So that's where it gets. So I always look at it like this. Okay, if they're not in a tour bus, if they're not on a Prevost, if they're on a bus, we're talking 10 to 12 people.
Okay.
If they're in a van or like a C class, then it's going to be anywhere from like 5 to 7.
Yeah, I think we would be more able to accommodate like 5 to 7.
Oh,
Yeah,
folks,
five
we'll
to
make it
7
happen.
is easy. Like
Yeah,
with planning, we could do like 10 to 12, and that
Sure.
would be
I can already think of who I would have. Yeah.
If it's like Luke Bryant and his 50-person road crew, like we'd probably need a little more heads up.
Yeah.
That becomes a full thing.
That's one genre that I really haven't, country music. I just haven't like really broken into that.
They get hungry too.
Yeah. Hey,
Are you a country music fan first? Indie music? Let me guess.
Yeah.
I see you as an indie rock guy.
Okay.
And am I wrong?
I don't really know what any music genres really mean anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that's not like some like, deep thought. I really don't. Cause like I can like, there's probably like 10 music genres where I can be like, yeah, that sounds like that. But then you go onto like Apple Music and you can sort by genre and there's like 500 genres on there. And it's like I don't know what any of it is.
Yeah.
I grew up largely on like 70s disco and 70s rock.
Okay.
Motown. And then I found punk music and that changed my life. And then now I've just been like everything really but country. I can't.
Yeah.
Pop country.
What's
What's butt country?
I had the same question.
Dirty. It's dirty. It's a dirty type of country.
That's essentially the country I'm speaking of.
It stinks.
Yeah. It's, yeah. If it's talking about a truck, a dirt road, all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't stand it.
You're not your style.
I feel like you would get along with the Roots. That's how I feel.
Hey. I might.
I had no follow up to that.
I was like, wow, that just derailed the entire podcast.
That wasn't even a bomb. That was something new.
I honestly thought he was going to be like, yeah, I worked with the Roots and they were great.
You're trying to set him up.
He just gets up and leaves the podcast. He's like, well, I didn't know you were going to be talking about the Roots today. We got to go.
It felt like a volleyball set, but like I hit it out to the crowd. Like, oh, no one's going to be able to get that.
Headed to Philly next week, actually.
Hey, shout out to Philly and the Roots.
That's so fun. Yeah, I don't know. I was like thinking about like what I got into. I definitely have gone through phases in my life. Like I remember, and a lot of times it was like a girlfriend. It was like, oh, I remember the girl that got me into punk music. Like I remember the girl that got me into this music.
Yeah, does punk ever change anybody's life for the better? That's my question.
He just said it did.
I think
it was for the better.
Yeah, I think so. I think it for like a socially awkward, insecure, anti-establishment minded like 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I found a few records from like the local skateboarder legend guy that was like 15 years older than me. And it's like, I remember it as if it was yesterday, the records that I heard in one day that forever changed my life. Yeah. And, it answered to nobody. I'm unapologetically myself. I love everybody for everybody.
Ramones.
And I don't have hate in my heart really for anything. I just, I just don't care for the establishment.
Oh crap! I thought you were naming punk bands for a second. That's why I was like the Ramones.
I was wondering what you were doing.
It was just song titles.
Yeah.
Oh, those were song titles?
No.
All right, guys, this is my last one. I'm done. I'll accept it.
And so I'm old enough that I grew up with like mixtapes.
Yeah.
And so like I would get introduced. I didn't have the internet to like fact check a lot of stuff. So like I would get something that would be like one album on one side and a completely different artist and album on the other.
Oh yeah.
And so for years I would confuse artists and bands because I'd be like, no, that's Green Day. I know it was Green Day because I had it on tape. Except one side was Green Day and the other side was Sloppy Seconds, and I thought they were the same band for years.
Oh.
I also had like do you remember a group called the Grave Diggers? They were like horrorcore hip hop.
Is that like are they kind of like Hollywood Undead? Is that what that? This is a rap group. There was a style of music called horrorcore. Okay,
and that's originally what 3 6 Mafia was because they were 666 Mafia.
You're educating me on the genre thing right now. I'm here for it.
And it was it's basically like spooky hip hop.
Okay,
and they were started off like 3 6 started off as a horrorcore band, and then they kind of got away from the horrorcore part, but they were still called they changed it to 3 6 Mafia or whatever, and they just became more, kind of classic hip hop. But Gravediggers, there's a probably 10 different in like big names in that. But I had one side was Tupac and one side was Gravediggers, and I thought for years I was like, oh, that one Tupac song when he's talking about digging up corpses. I've never heard that one. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's hilarious. I grew up in a small town, so all hip hop was spooky hip hop.
Okay.
We don't want you listening to that haunted music.
Yeah, exactly. We had to get baptisms after every song, every album. You know what? Also, I think I was introduced to music in 1997, like when I was getting into what we call secular music. Now, the group Now One. Now, that's what I call music. You had a whole selection of Macy Gray. You had...
how many artists can you name off now? That's what I call music.
Now
Volume 1.
Volume 1. Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, Hit Me Baby One More Time, Marcy Playground.
Okay.
I smell 16 candy. Yeah, I thought more people would sing. You had Casey and JoJo.
Yeah.
Now One really was good. I'm going to stand by it. I think they're getting carried away now.
Yeah.
Because there's like a Now 455, which there hasn't even been that many years.
And they do like a kids bop version of the Now's. Now that's what I call music too.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think Kids Bop needs to stop.
Yeah.
I thought it was inappropriate when they did Wet Ass Pussy. I was
Yeah.
like, we don't need a Kids Bop version of that.
Yeah, and they changed it to like a cat meowing in the bath. It was weird.
I don't know. Is this a joke? Did they really do that?
I bet that's what they play. Like that's what they use in Guantanamo Bay, for when they're torturing people, and that is definitely what they play for hours upon hours. And
because I remember they did Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind, and that movie's just about doing drugs. Like, I mean, I don't.
That was
I
a
don't
movie?
even. No, like it was one of the Kids Bop or whatever.
Yeah,
and so I always wondered what they replaced all the words to.
Yeah, they did. Your Sex Takes Me to Paradise. That was one.
Wait, no, are you serious?
Yeah, they did the Bruno Mars Kids Bop, and it was like, I'm like, you guys are just getting out of hand. Maybe some kids don't need to bop to this. We don't need to necessarily. What is this?
wow.
Oh, that's the WAP featuring Cardi B.
So it really is
Kids
one.
Bop. Yeah.
Wow.
Kids WAP.
Kids WAP.
Kids WAP.
Kids. I'm not even gonna say it.
They've changed the W and P to Wings and Pizza.
Oh, that's amazing.
They're gonna be so disappointed on their wedding day. On their wedding day, they're like, I thought I was getting wings and pizza.
Yeah.
I want to walk down the aisle to Wings and Pizza when I get older.
Old Cece's song.
I mean, who is that helping? Because like
record labels.
I feel like Epstein's Island has a
Wings and Pizza room.
Well, they're probably sponsoring Kids Bop. Yeah, it was pizza, wasn't it?
I always wondered.
That's how they ordered the kids.
Speaking of Jeff Epstein, the island was Little St. James, which implies that there was just a regular St. James. Can you imagine if you're the guy that lived on regular St. James and like people be like, is this? No, that's not. That's my neighbor.
He was probably normal. Like, hey, I'm into regular size James people. I'm not into the little.
And the Harder Brunch motto is always end on a high note. Can you hit that beat for me, Zach? Stu, thank you so much for being on the program. Where can people find you, follow you on social media, everything you're doing?
Yeah, hit me up Instagram or Twitter at Not So Flyover. And sincerely appreciate the time, fam. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.
This is awesome.
Thank you. Zach Roan.
You can find me at Zach_Roan on all social media.
Casey Campbell.
Yep, you can find me around Black Circle from time to time. You can also find me online at Danger Brewer on Instagram.
Thank you. Yeah, that's our sound engineer, by the way. I guess I should have introduced who that was. This is a ghost that we've been having. Thaddeus J.
You can find me at Thad McKee, and I'm also starting lawsuits for the parents that let their kids get into Kids Bop. They knew what they were doing. Are they just getting all orphans? I don't know. But we're going to get down to the I'm not going to say bottom. We're going to get down to it.
You can find me at Dyke Michaels on all social media. Also, we have a wonderful Patreon, patreon.com/Harder Brunch. If you want to support us and everything we do. Also, you get an entire bonus episode of a really fun comedy show, and just more of us talking, being beautiful. So thank you so much. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
It's time that I'm around broken glass, now my tongue split. Spitting up blood. Falling in love. Spitting up blood. Falling in love. Take another hit, feel the spin with the cool kids. Everyone a friend till the end, and that's the way it is. Never got a number, never really tried nothing. Caught up in the breezy seas of the weekend, the weekend, the weekend. Spitting up blood. Falling in love. Spitting up blood. Falling in love. Take another hit, feel the spin with the cool kids. Take another hit, feel the spin with the cool kids. Oh, take another hit, feel the spin with the cool kids. Take another hit, feel the spin with the cool kids.